Hello and welcome everyone, this is Calebovitsch coming to you with another episode of Deck Check. Well, today we are going to be diving into the Throne format, and despite the fact that there had been some balance changes to that format and to Expedition, with the likes of Torch and Heart of the Vault being nerfed, I am still going to show you that Praxis can be good. And this is a long-standing personal favorite of mine, Charge Rod Ramp. Here we go. And this is it, Charge Rod Ramp in the Throne format. This is a deck I had been working on for a while, especially before Trials of Grotov were introduced to Eternal. It is a deck that is based on a card and a battle skill. The card is Divining Rod. It is a 6-cost time weapon that gives a unit +3/+3, and on summon you get to play all units from the top 4 cards of your deck that share a skill with the wielder. You get to discard the rest of the cards. This card had been around since the core set released around 3 years ago, but I believe with each good, huge unit with a certain battle skill, it has become more of a fan favorite, I would say, because this is, let me tell you this much, this is not a truly competitive deck, but it can give you some really cool wins. Now, you might have seen some games with a similar deck in the past on Team Rankstar's YouTube channel in the Epic Starlights section. But this is a new version, this is a changed version, this is Charge Rod Ramp 7.0, because this is after the 7th expansion had landed. Okay, so here we go. As I said, Divining Rod. If we put it on a unit with Charge, you get to play all units with Charge from the top 4 cards of your deck. If these units are huge, the better. The biggest combo of this deck, I'm gonna get to that straight out, is when on turn 6 or before, because you can ramp up, you play Waystone Titan, a 6-cost triple fire 5/7 charging sentinel that has the ability of when it hits the enemy player, you get +6 power this turn. So there is an option of playing Waystone Titan for 6 power, attacking with it if the opponent is all has their power depleted, has all their units exhausted, or doesn't have any units on the board because it's still early in the game. You get to hit the enemy player, you get +6 power, you get to play Divining Rod on it from that 6 power, and you get to play several units. And if these units are the bigger units from your deck, like Caleb, Uncrowned Prince, an 8-cost triple fire 6/6 Usurper Scion, with Charge that on summon plays a random weapon on each of your fire units, and this is the way to high roll your game for sure. But also, what you really need in that scenario is to top deck in those 4 cards an Aspect of Destruction, a 7-cost triple fire charging elemental from Dark Frontier that on Onslaught, which means if you had attacked on the turn you're playing this, you get to ready your units that it can attack again. So in fact, the scenario is like this. You play a Waystone Titan, you attack, you deal 5 damage to the opponent, you get 6 power. You play Divining Rod on Waystone Titan, it becomes an 8/10. You play Aspect of Destruction, a 6/4, and you can attack for at least 14 more damage, and you get that 6 power back again to play your fast spells or ramp up even further or do stuff like that. So that is the high roll of this deck, and you could call it a combo deck for that matter. But in its essence, this is a ramp deck, the last part of the name of the deck, Charge Rod Ramp, because to get to Waystone Titan, to get to Divining Rod, you don't want to wait till turn 6, you want to play it on turn 4, or maybe even sooner. So what your deal is, you are ramping up, i.e. you are playing cards that give you additional power, additional max power on your future turns, cards such as Initiate of the Sands, a 1-cost time mage, a 1/1 that gives you +1 maximum power. Devotee of the Sands, similar stats, similar abilities, but with the upside of being able to shift it for 2. And if you are playing this card on turn 2, always shift it. almost always. There is no always in card games. Almost always, unless you're playing against a very aggressive deck that already has a 2/1 in play. You ramp up with Power Stone, a 2-cost relic that gives you +1 max power. And this being a relic means it is usually much harder to deal with from the opponent's side on turn 2 or 3. And you have 3 copies of Toka's Waystone Harvester. Even after the nerf down from 3/4 to 2/4, it is still a 3-cost Double Time Explorer that gives you +1 max power, and you can twist Toka's to increase your max power by 1 even further, so buffing his second ability, because his first ability is the enemy player can't play spells directly on their units, which means they cannot play cards such as Devour, Worthy Cause, Combust, Parry, Finest Hour, and probably some more, but those highlights you've probably known about. Alright, just 3 copies, just because the 4th copy did not make it into this deck. The rest of the units, aside from those ramp units, are all charge units, and this deck has a hefty count of 21 charge units in 75 cards. Could be more, but you would be taking stuff out, such as the ones you can get from Dragonforge, but I'm gonna get to that later. You could be playing, let's start the charge units. I will get to what you could also be playing later. You start the charge units with Praxis Smuggler. It has charge. It is a 2/3 charging merchant that on summon you get to swap a card from your hand to a fire or time card in your black market. I'm gonna get back to the market at the end of this description. Next up we have 4 copies of Eclipse Dragon, a huge boost that Red got in Dark Frontier, a 5-cost double fire, 4/4 flying charge quick draw, with a huge upside, especially in this deck, a huge upside that at the start of the enemy turn you get +3 power this turn, which allows you to play some fast spells that are included in this deck list, and I'm gonna get to them later. You're also running one copy of Soulfire Drake, slightly more higher costed than Eclipse Dragon, is a 5/2 flying charger that on Entomb gives each unit in your deck randomly flying or charge. Next up we have 4 copies of Waystone Titan. I have already talked about this. 4 copies of Aspect of Destruction and 4 copies of Caleb Uncrowned Prince. And from what you can see, yes, this deck has a ton of legendaries. Unfortunately, you could go around with playing some other charge units, but if you want to have a chance at the OTK, you should be running at least Waystone Titans from Into Shadow campaign and Aspects of Destruction. I've already talked about Power Stones and Divining Rods. This deck is also running 1 copy of Magebreaker, a 3-cost double fire relic weapon, a 3/2, that on Spellcraft 2 you get to play Unexpected Results on the opponent. Unexpected Results is a spell that shows you the spells that are left, not their counts but their types, in the opponent's deck. And you get to choose one stack and transform all of them into firebombs, which means, sorry opponent, you're not getting any Slays, you're not getting any Harshuls, you're not getting any Shenra Speaks, etc, etc. And 1 copy of Caleb's Persuader, one of my personal favorite weapons. Not only does it have Caleb in the name, but is a huge boost to fire, a 4-cost +3/+3 weapon. Also, when the wielder attacks, you essentially get to play Caleb's Favor, which means dealing 2 damage to the enemy player, and you get to draw a Fire Sigil from your deck. Now, why are we running a 1 of Soulfire Drake, Magebreaker, and Caleb's Persuader? Because we are running 4 copies of Dragonforge. It is a 3-cost fire fast spell. You get to draw a dragon or weapon of your choice from your deck and reduce its cost by 1. And this is a 2-sided combo with Eclipse Dragon, because A, it can give you Eclipse Dragon, and B, if you already have Eclipse Dragon in play, you're attacking with it, you're getting 3 power on the opponent's turn, you can play Dragonforge as well and search for your Divining Rod, which also costs 5 then. So the high roll for the Eclipse Dragon Dragonforge scenario is turn 1 Initiative of the Sands, turn 2 any ramp, like Devotee of the Sands, Tokas, or Power Stone, turn 3 Eclipse Dragon into playing Dragonforge, and turn 4 Divining Rod, finding your Aspect of Destruction, Caleb, and Waystone Titan, and giving big weapons from Caleb, because yes, this is also potentially a huge boost. I mean, you can get a Worn Shield, but you could also get a Doorbreaker. I mean, just look at all the weapons that are available in Throne, and you'll know why this deck is so fun. Rounding out the spells are 4 copies of Kairos' Choice. For 2, you get to either deal 3 damage to an enemy unit or put one of your units into your hand. And believe me, and you're going to see it in one of the games, at least one of the games that I'm going to show you later, that the second mode is also viable. Now, I am not running that much removal in this version of this deck. In the previous iterations, I had 4 copies of Torch, 4 copies of Flame Blast, etc. But right now, you want to be the aggro/combo. You don't really need to get rid of that many opposing threats, and I'm playing Kairos' Choice instead of Torches, because on the opponent's turn, if you have an Eclipse Dragon in play, or if you have Waystone Titan and you attack the opponent and you have some power left over, you can use it to get back your charge unit, and you can proceed to combo kill the opponent on the following turns. Or rather, charge kill, not combo kill. As for the power base, we have 4 copies of each Praxis power. We have 4 copies of Seed of Impulse, Praxis Insignia, Praxis Banner, and Crest of Impulse. And rounding out, we have 5 copies of Time Sigil, 4 copies of Fire Sigil. In theory, you could be running, for example, some Waystones, but then your seats are not doing much. I mean, you could turn 4 seats and 2 of each sigil into 4 copies of one Waystone, 4 copies of other Waystone, if you think that is better for you. Right now, I'm happy as is with this version. For the market, from East Annex Smuggler, we have a power card, 1 copy of Granite Waystone. I'm not running it in main, so I can be as well running it in the market. Why fire instead of time? Because we do have triple fire requirements on Caleb, on Aspect of Destruction, and on Waystone Titan, and on Soulfire Drake. And on Flame Blast, the next card in the market, you get to deal X damage, which is equal to the power you have left, to any target. You can kill a site, you can kill the opponent, you can kill a huge unit. Cauldron Cookbook, a 2-cost fire relic. You probably have not seen it lately, but once per turn you can pay 3 to put a firebomb into your deck, then draw a card. This has been running rampant. This relic has been running rampant about a year ago, I remember, when people were clamoring about nerfing it somehow. Fortunately, Direwolf did not do it. The card stopped seeing play after a while, as a lot of OP cards do, because we're getting more OP cards. Yee. Okay, 1 copy of Purify, a 2-cost Praxis spell. You get to silence a unit and deal 3 damage to it. You can also exchange it for Edict of Grodov or Edict of Shavka, depending on your metagame. And 1 copy of Eternity Core, a 4-cost relic, a time relic that is double Power Stone. Double the initial investment, double the effect. And that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. I believe I'm gonna rather show you than show you about what this deck is about, rather than just tell you that you need to ramp up, you need to play a charger, and you need to put a rod on it. Oh wait, that's in the deck's name. Okay then. I'm also going to tell you a bit about what other cards you could put in this deck if you're, for example, lacking Caleb's or Soulfire Drakes or Tokuses or stuff like that. So I'm gonna get to that after the games. But for now, let's see how many high rolls can I get. And this is game number 1 against Kuggle. And this is a hand with a bit of power, but it comes into play depleted, which is why I can't play my ramp on turn 2, and you need to get at least some ramp when it comes to your first hand. When it comes to your second hand, you don't have to have such high standards on it, but if it includes Tokus and a Smuggler, and that Smuggler can get us either a ramp card or Cauldron Cookbook to start drawing cards, or a piece of removal, then yeah, sure, I'm fine with that. And this deck does have slow starts if you don't have a piece of ramp on turn 1 and or 2. But even if, we are starting, so yeah, that is all the better. The opponent is playing a Karendon Steward, which is odd. I have not seen this card in Throne in a while, only in drafts a couple of seasons ago. Tokus into potentially Eclipse Dragon. Now, if I drew a Dragon Forge and the opponent did not remove Tokus, that would be the high roll of this game for sure. Rista Kanthas Herald, so the opponent is running some sort of Feln Empower. Oh, indeed, it is Dragon Forge. So yes, we get to play the dragon. We can attack with both because Rista cannot block. And on the opponent's turn, we can Dragon Forge for Rod. Or if the opponent kills the dragon for something else. Now let's see, Strategize, which is not killing the dragon, which is okay with me. Even if the opponent kills, for example, Tokas, gets us down to 4 power. We can play a Time Sigil on the next turn up to 5, and if we get a Rod, it costs 5 as well, because remember, Dragon Forge decreases the cost of the dragon or weapon you get by 1. So you're essentially running 8 copies of Divining Rod. Now, drumroll please. Are we going to get it or not? I mean, Waystone Titan would be huge in this scenario, but the opponent has a deadly blocker, so I would rather try and get the high roll here. Also, making the clock tick faster on the opponent, because getting Divining Rod on the Flying Dragon makes its attack go up to 7, which means 3 attacks, and there we go. And this is a low roll, but this happens in this deck. Now, the question is, can we deal with the opponent even without the Rod, even while fizzling on Rod, which is not really us losing a card, because it is +3/+3 on a unit, and we can theoretically win in 2 turns. Although, probably the Feln opponent has a piece of removal, right? Right? Right. I also have East Annex Smuggler, and we can get a Purify to make the opponent's clock slightly slower. Now the question is, what is the opponent going to do here in this situation? They are attacking us for 7 down to 8, which is slightly alarming, and they're playing Sodi Windbreaker. Fortunately, the dragon is slightly bigger, so Sodi cannot kill the dragon. But okay, I believe in this version we are getting East Annex Smuggler, taking out Caleb because we won't have power to play Caleb, getting a Purify to kill one of their units, probably Rista because it's bigger. But it could also have been the other one. And leaving us for a block, and we also can play Dragon Forge to get a 5 attack dragon, the Soulfire Drake, if the opponent kills the dragon now. And that is also an upside of playing this deck. Even if you're not comboing out, you have a ton, or at least 21 charge units in your deck, which means the opponent has to be very careful about how they are attacking. They are attacking with both here. We're blocking Sodi, letting 3 damage through. Now, hopefully the opponent does not have 5 damage to deal here. And what they are playing is going to be Nullblade, 6/4. Once again, cannot kill the dragon. But the opponent is out of range of 7 damage on the dragon. And I was thinking to myself, I could go for Caleb's Persuader, Soulfire Drake, or Eclipse Dragon. Actually, right now it doesn't matter. Just hope the opponent does not have anything on one that, I don't know, stuns the dragon. But no. And somehow, even after fizzling with the Rod, we made it. The funniest thing is, the Rod fizzled, but it made Eclipse Dragon up to a 7/7, which made it possible for the dragon to survive both Sodi and Nullbreaker. I mean, if Nullbreaker was a 7/5 and it attacked the dragon, we would Dragon's Forge for a charger and attack anyway. So yeah, the first one did matter more than the second one. So hooray! Hello and welcome, second opponent. We have a scout, we have 2 pieces of ramp, we have 5 power total, we have a piece of interaction in Kairos' choice, and we have the Rod. So what we're just missing is one of 21 charging units. Probably we could get it. It is with high probability that I'm saying that we can get it. Caleb, unfortunately, we have to get him to the bottom. We're missing a third fire, and he's better later in the game. Right now, he's just a dead draw. I'm sorry, Caleb, but sometimes you are just a dead draw. Hojan Crownbreaker. Now, we don't like lifesteal when the opponent has it, obviously, so I'm opting to use Kairos' Choice on it first, not to ramp up. The other option would be just shifting Devotee of the Sands, and next turn playing Power Stone and Kairos' Choice. And right now I am exchanging the Power Stone for a double Power Stone. I mean, the power that I have in my hand comes into play depleted, but yeah, Eternity Core should be good anyway. Unseen Commando. Now we have another option of getting rid of it, or we could just play Tokus and ramp up with him and get that aspect of destruction. Especially if we play Eternity Core or Twist Tokus twice, we can make everything better. But Tokus is going down. The next turn, our options are either playing Eternity Core or Devotee of the Sands and Kairos' Choice. And I believe I don't want the opponent to gain any more health. So let's just shift Devotee and kill that one. And what is the opponent going to do? Tazbu the Forbidden. Okay, this is a huge stop for us. A huge stop sign, but we are playing Praxis Banner and trying to high roll an aspect of destruction or a Caleb off of this one. And we're getting a Smuggler aspect and another Smuggler. So right now I don't believe we need the Eternity Core. What we need is Flame Blast, because we have 7 power and we can kill Tazbu. And right now I'm opting just to attack with Aspect. If the opponent wants to trade, sure. On the other hand, if I attack with everything, he would just probably block our 5-6 and took 10 damage. And I don't believe that is what I wanted to go for. I want to have Flame Blast for for the second Tazbu, it seems, and attack for 9, and have Aspect of Destruction at the ready for the next turn. I mean, the opponent is still taking 1 damage off of each Tazbu. They are, and they know they are dead. Okay, so they're probably not running any harsh rules in that deck list. Alrighty, up on to game number 3. Okay, let's see what Amane has brought to the table. This hand is strange. It doesn't pack that much oomph, which is why I opted to redraw it into this one. And although we cannot play Tokus on turn 3 right now, we do have a Power Stone for turn 2 and a Dragon Forge to follow things up, either for a Charge Dragon or for the Rod. Now, as for the first hand, once again, it had 2 power, it had 2 Initiates of the Sands. But it was lacking really any substance for me. That is why I took it away and redrew it. Alright, Defining Rod, which means Power Stone into either Dragon Forge or Tokus on turn 3. I mean, if we get a time source, I'd rather play a Tokus, and because then we can go for for Dragon Forge and Kairos' Choice on a turn. Remember, Kairos' Choice also saves your units. Praxis Banner comes into play depleted, but with that Power Stone we had up to 4 power this turn anyway. Remember just not to play Divining Rod on your Tokus. It does not have any abilities. At least without Soulfire Drake's help it doesn't. Another Dragon Forge, which means we can go Dragon Forge for Eclipse Dragon and Kairos' Choice in opposing unit. Although with 4 colors, I have no idea what the opponent could be playing. Yes, that is a Seek Power. So we are going for Eclipse Dragon, only because Eclipse over Soulfire, just because we have that Dragon Forge and Kairos' Choice in hand. So if the opponent does not kill it, and they don't, we have the option of playing one or the other on their turn. So if the opponent wants to, for example, kill our dragon, we can play Kairos' Choice. If they don't play anything of substance, we can go for Dragonforge and follow things up. And they are indeed playing Garden of Omens and Ice Bolting the Dragon, so we can Kairos' Choice it back. I mean, okay, I'll pause for a second because we have a plethora of options here. We could Kairos' Choice this dragon back into our hand. It acts the same as if we played Dragonforge on another copy of Eclipse Dragon. We are getting just a 4-cost Eclipse Dragon. And the opponent seems to be running a strange 5-color control-looking deck, which means Kairos' Choice is slightly worse than tutoring for a card like a Mage Breaker or a Caleb's Persuader or another Divining Rod or the Soulfire Drake. So I believe right here I would rather Kairos' Choice the dragon back to my hand. And Ice Bolt still gives us a power. And that means we could Eclipse Dragon and do the Smuggler, but with the Smuggler I want to take the Time Sigil out of my hand, and get a Cauldron Cookbook, because this might go into a longer game. It might turn into a longer game, I mean. Wanted Poster. Okay. And Felrog's Choice. Well, right now it seems that Kairos' Choice would have been better. Given the line the opponent is playing and using. So I am going for Soulfire Drake right now because we don't have any more fast spells in hand. And if the opponent kills Soulfire Drake, then, well, we're just getting more flyers and more chargers. So yes, now that I have 2 power in hand, I am playing one of them, attacking for 5, hopefully, yes. And next turn for 8, so if we draw power, for example, we can do East Annex Smuggler, and grab the cookbook, play the cookbook, use the cookbook, and book the cook, and cook the book. And just draw a card. Oh, Permafrost. Yeah, that is a solution for sure. Seed of Impulse. Okay, we can play Seed of Impulse. We can play East Annex Smuggler, get the sigil out of the hand. Swap it for Cauldron Cookbook. The opponent is still up at 16 and we cannot finish them with Flame Blast, especially now that we know they're playing Felrog's Choices. They could just redirect it back to our noggin. But with the cookbook we can start drawing an additional card each turn. We don't care about the firebombs right now. I mean, they are somewhere in the remaining 60 odd cards from in our deck. So yeah, that's it. And I mean, if the opponent wants to kill all our units, we are still getting flying or charge out of Soulfire Drake. Another Felrog's Choice, yikes. So the opponent is once again drawing 2 cards and getting that wanted poster back. Amber Acolyte, sure. Caleb Uncrowned Prince. Yeah, that is a good unit to play if you have 8 power, right? And what do we get? What do we get? Shogun's Scepter. And the other one gets a Orange Shield, because why not? You're permafrozen anyway. Alrighty. So the opponent refs, probably, finally. Shenra speaks with Decimate. Okay, was not expecting that. So our units are not getting flank or charge. Welp, welp, welp. What we are getting, though, is a charge off of Waystone Titan. And in theory, I could be going for the high roll here and playing Divining Rod on it. But I opted to go for Cookbook, and with the opponent on 5 cards in hand, I'm just trying to build up my situation here. I mean, if they, for example, kill the Titan and don't kill Tokus, next turn we can Smuggler into Divining Rod, or if we draw power, we can Smuggler and Divining Rod, and maybe get some chargers in there on the opponent. Wanted Poster, sure. Third Felrog's Choice? Yes, third Felrog's Choice. So it's good I did not go for that Flame Blast, it seems. They are getting the poster back. They are drawing a ton of cards. But will it matter? Well, Smuggler, Rod, and Tokus is 7 damage. The opponent is on 8. So I could go for Flame Blast now. And let's play the Rod. And drum roll, high roll, low roll. East Annex Smuggler, Aspect of Destruction, Waystone Titan, and Caleb. Oh my goodness. Yes, that is what we call a high roll. No, I don't need to... I'm not even checking on those weapons. I mean, come on. The opponent is going to a negative 33. But I just needed one more damage deck. Okay, yes, that is the high roll, and that is this deck at its best. Now let's get back to the deck builder, and I'm gonna tell you a bit about what cards you can include in this deck if you don't have some of these copies in your collection. Welcome back, dear viewers. I hope you did enjoy those games. And yes, the question I am being asked most common about this deck list is, why oh why are you not running Sickles, the Burning Sand, in here? It is a 4-cost double-time Charge Overwhelm Pledge, 5/2 Mage, and on summon this is invulnerable to damage this turn. Well, honestly, for me this is not as high as impact as our top end, as Waystone Titan, Aspect of Destruction, and Caleb. It does not serve the same purpose as Smuggler, does not have that ability. It is, in my opinion, slightly worse than Eclipse Dragon and Soulfire Drake, especially Eclipse Dragon giving you 3 power and also having flying. I mean, come on, that is also a huge deal on some boards. And yes, there are a ton of charge units you could be running in this deck. And let me show you some examples, some better or worse examples. I mean, you could even be running as cheap stuff as Horde Duelist, a 2-cost 2/2 Fire Charger. I am showing you this instead of Grodov's favorite, the Time 2/2 Charger, because remember the thing that Caleb does, he plays a random weapon on each of your fire units, so you want as many of your chargers to be fire as possible. That is also why I am not running Marin Stinger. This deck honestly does not have that much free space for many more chargers. I mean, if you took out Tokuses, maybe, then you would be running still 12 pieces of ramp, but I opted for 15 as Tokus can be a multi-ramp. I mean, in theory, East Annex Smuggler, if he gets you Eternity Core, also could be considered a ramper. So yes, in theory you could take out 3 Tokuses and, I don't know, a Caleb's Persuader or Mage Breaker, and get 4 copies of stuff like Sensari Brigand, a 2/2 charger that deals double damage to players, or Sensari Dervish. You get to exhaust enemy units and attack for even more. Or you could be playing Galai, Shavka's Listeners, the fire listeners that invoke fire for you and give you some additional cards. I have been trying Galais out, but they have not been that great, honestly. As you can see, a ton of charge units that you can have here, like Tempered Sentinel you can bond off of Waystone Titan, but that's not what you want to do. You have your Grot of Evangels, the Time 2/2 chargers that on Fate also give you a piece of time influence. You have your Sickles, you have your Amaran Stingers. Now that Torch has been nerfed, the opponent cannot torch it, so you get to put 5 Scorpion Traps into the enemy deck. So yes, there is a ton of units. Even this small Alluring Ember, a 1-cost flying charge with Warp, if you need to have something to put your rod onto. Charging Rod, that is. So yes, this is the part of the deck that you could exchange, improve if you're not running some of those things. But remember, Waystone Titan is probably the most important one because it gives you the high roll of Divining Rod and Aspect of Destruction. But if you are not running Waystone Titan and Aspect of Destruction, you could just go for some other cards. Maybe you could go for Godan and make this deck more heavy on the fire, but I don't believe it is easy for this deck to get up to 5 fire reliably on turn 5, especially that you have 1-drops in time. You could also think about shaving Initiates of the Sands for another Tokus and some Torches and include more removal in this deck. You could swap out some things in the market. Sure, but after playing with this deck for a while with different iterations, I believe this is one of the better versions of it, at least in my opinion, which is obviously not perfect. And remember guys, it is not a tier 1 deck, it is more like tier fun deck. Another card. Sorry, I just wrote in Rambo as usual. Another card you might think about including in this deck instead of Tokas is Ramba, Arena Showman, a 3-cost double Praxis giant. When Ramba hits the enemy player, reduce the cost of each card in your hand by 1, so it is technically also ramping, and if you are ramped up high enough, you get to pay 7 to play the top card of your deck, and you can use that ability multiple times in a turn. So this is also a thing that you can test out, a card you can play instead of Tokases, and I have been running them for some games as well. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be it for this video. It is a slightly shorter video because it is about a charge deck, and those games were very, very fast indeed. If you have any questions, please submit them in the comments below, or you can find me on my Twitch streams, twitch.tv/Calebovitsch, or on my Discord server. You can find all the links in the description of the video below, as well as link to the deck list on Eternal Warcry. This video has been sponsored, and I would like to thank my sponsors. TeamRankstar.com, your best source on all guides and strategy articles on digital card games such as Eternal, Mythgard, Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering, Gwent, and Teppen. Also, additionally, I would like to thank Inked Gaming, customize your game with your style, OP Seat, and Acquire. Alright, this is it for Deck Check for this week. See you guys next week. Calebovitsch out.